right, everyone. Good evening. This is the voice and the face of Dr. Tolo Labinton. I'm CEO and co-founder of Living Spring Family Medical Center here in the beautiful city of Mansfield, Texas, not too far from Dallas, Texas, where we help our patients live long and well because we believe the quality of life is just as important as the quantity of life. Now, today we'll be doing a Facebook Live in regards to having a better or improved quality of life. And the topic today is, Doc, how do I build a better financial future starting with nothing? And the talk today is to have featured a CPA, well, not a CPA actually, a financial planner. Forgive my slip of tongue. And if you're watching live, hashtag live. If you're watching replay, hashtag replay. And for those of you who are watching, you're wondering why we're having this topic, why the doctor talking about money. But it'd be amazing to see or to note that a lot of health issues sometimes have ties to finances. And so, at the request of some of my clients, we're having this discussion because we believe that if we improve our financial health, we can also improve our physical health. Now, if you're watching live, please kindly comment in the section so I know you're here and I can give you a shout out. At this time, I am waiting for my guest to join us. And so give me a few seconds. Should be joining us soon. And he just got a word from me. He's a busy guy, so he'll be joining us soon. And so if you have people who should be watching this, comment, tag them, have them, or share this link with them. Hi, Rashad. Thank you for joining. I'm glad to see you here. Forward this link to someone who you know could find this very helpful. I decided that we'll have this talk because the person who's actually coming to give this talk is someone who has experienced what it's like to have nothing and has grown to a position where that's no longer an issue. And so I thought, why not have him come on and talk to us about what is possible? What is possible? Okay, so he should be joining us shortly, and then we'll be going ahead. All right. So while I'm waiting for him, I will go ahead and talk to you a little bit about our guest. His name is Mr. David Adefeso. He is an entrepreneur and a financial consultant. He's also the founder and CEO of Sootchy. That's a mobile technology platform used to combat U.S. student debt. So he started the company based on the idea that our children should enjoy higher education without the crippling debt that comes with student loans. And so that's why he started this company. He's also the CEO. He's also the CEO of the Pacific Group. Give me 1 second. Looks like our guest is having some technical difficulties. Give me 1 second. There we go. There we go. All right, he's also the CEO of the Pacific Groups, and he oversees all aspects of the firm's operation. So get this, and this is why I actually had him come on. He's having technical issues, but he'll be joining us shortly. But at the age of 21, he moved to New York City, and during his early months in the U.S., he actually went through a lot. He had no place to live and actually sleep sometimes, and so he was homeless, and so he decided to become financially savvy, and he did the CPA exam and passed all 4 parts. I don't know if those of you who are familiar with this on his first try. And from then, he went on to graduate from Harvard Business School in 1996, and he became one of the youngest MBA graduate students in Harvard. Okay, and after his education, he started his career in Wall Street, and his first job was an investment banker. So our guest is not just speaking from a distant experience, but he's also gone through the process of building financial health from wealth and financial health from scratch. Okay. All right. Let me see what the holdup is. I have guests here. Let me see. All right, hang in there. This promises to be good. Just hang in there, hang in there. All right, let's see. Otherwise, I'm going to start asking a question. Let's see. All right. Okay. Let me see. Let's see. All right. All right, in 1 second. Let me see. Okay, it may have sent in the wrong link. Oops. All right, give me 1 second. I may have sent in the wrong link. Oh my goodness. All right, let me see what's going on. Give me 1 second, people. Okay, let me see. Nope. All right, give me 1 second, guys. I'm not sure if it's sending. All right, let's try this one. Let's try this one. Hang in there, everyone. Don't go yet. All right. Let me see. All right. All right. Sorry, we're still having technical difficulties. Oh my goodness. Let me see. Give me 1 second. I am so sorry. I sent him the wrong link. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I sent him the wrong link. He's backstage, guys. Hang on. Oh my goodness. I'm embarrassed by this, but we keep going. We keep going. We keep going. All right. So while we're waiting for him, I'll keep you entertained. Now, for those of you who are watching, if you humor me, can you post where you're watching from? Can you post where you're watching from? What state are you watching from? For those of you who are watching live, what state are you watching from? I promise, he's coming. He's behind the scene. Oh my goodness. Oh, there he is. I'm sorry.
Hello, Dr. Labinton. How are
I,
you? A little technical difficulty. This happens to me all the time, just so you know. I think it's me and technology.
I,
Thank you for being.
I sent you the wrong link. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for coming. How are you?
I am good. It's a wonderful Monday out there, and I'm happy and I'm good, and I'm ready to get down to business. It's a great
All right.
topic we're talking about today, by the way.
Yes, it is. And I already talked about you. I yapped about you while I was waiting for the whole thing to fix. But thank you so much for coming. If you don't mind, just kindly introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do? And then we'll go from there.
Of course, my name is David Adefeso. I'm an investment advisor, also a financial planner, and I help people do many things. One of those things is plan for their lives. I help them make decisions that are important to them. For example, they want to retire. How much money do they need to retire on? For example, they want to educate their kids. How much money do they need, and how much should they save to get to that goal? How do they minimize taxes? How do they maximize their investment returns? How do they protect their family? And so I help them do a lot of different things. I'm from Lagos, Nigeria. Came here 33 years ago, and yes, yes, yes. And I spent my first 2 years as an accountant, and I went back to. I passed my CP exam. 2 years after I got here, went back to school, went to Harvard Business School, graduated, went to Wall Street, worked as an investment banker. And please don't hold that against me. I was one of the good guys. And I started my own company 20 years ago, the Pacific Group, that does what I just described. So it's a pleasure to be here. We're going to have a great time today.
Now, I like how you fast forwarded and said, you did this, you did that, but according to your background, you were not always financially savvy or financially equipped, right? So there is a backstory as far as even being maybe homeless. Can we talk about that just a little bit, because you fast forwarded and I love what you do right now, but for someone who's watching who's like, well, good for you. I mean, that's you must have had a golden spoon. Can we delve back and just share that just a little bit so we can give hope to those who may be in the same situation right now?
I think it's more like a brass spoon than a golden spoon. After I got to the U.S., I came in with $250, and I was an immigrant. I didn't, I spoke English, but I had a thick accent. Didn't really have any friends. I had some family, but not that type of family. And things were tough. It's hard enough, living in America with friends and a job and a certain level of income. Talk less of no job, no family, real family, no real friends. And so it was a very difficult time for me. We don't call it homeless anymore. We call it transitional. I was transitional. We don't say poor. We say food deprived. I was food deprived. And I think I had two things which were blessings for me. The first and the most important is I had the Spirit of Christ, which always held me. That's such an important thing, because without Christ, you're in the wind. You're relying on your own effort. And the second thing was I had a college degree. And so a big part of what I preach today is the importance of an education. And education to me doesn't necessarily mean a 4-year education. It could be a 2-year education. I mean, I have people who, work on my home. I have, people who do my HVAC and people who do my wood paneling. And these guys make over $100,000 and they didn't go to college. I have coders. I have a technology company. I hire some young kids, and they're, 18 to 25, and some of them don't have a college degree, and they're making $160,000. So it's important to get an education after high school. But it doesn't have to be a 4-year education, but it has to be some type of training that helps you develop a skill that you can always hold on to. So I had that coming from Nigeria. And so those two things I think helped me a lot.
Oh, wow. Now, what inspired you? I mean, obviously, you didn't want to be home, like food deprived and transitioning. You didn't want to stay in the transitional phase for a long time. But what inspired you to start building a better financial future with limited resources? And I'm asking that question because sometimes it's, maybe selling people on the why, like why is this important? Like what happened? What was it for you?
Well, there were a couple of things, for me that I think, again, I was really blessed, because even though I didn't have any money or even a home to live, I had good values. I had parents that instilled in me the value of honesty, instilled in me the value of hard work, always doing the best that you can. At whatever job you have, you be the best at it. And I don't care if you're sweeping floors, which I have. I got fired from Subway when I was 24 years old because I didn't know how to clean. I was supposed to be a closer, and so I didn't do the best job I could. And I learned from that lesson, and also lifelong learning. And so I already had certain good habits. And so those good habits propelled me. But I also had a drive. I didn't want to be poor. Coming from Lagos, Nigeria, I'd seen many, many, many poor people. Africa and many developing parts of the world and America have many, many poor people. It's just a higher percentage down there. And I just didn't want to be poor. And I didn't see any reason why I should be poor. And even till today, no one should be poor. I mean, poverty is something which I think should be extinct. And it's important for us to help those people who are unable to climb out of poverty or are in despair about what to do about financial security for people like us, like you and I, to help them. So I appreciate you inviting me on this call, and I look forward to it. It's a very exciting topic. Something. I mean, you and I had a call about this a few days ago, and you actually had 2 or 3 really good points. And I actually went back and I thought to myself, well, how do you build a better financial future for people who don't really have a lot? And I found that, there's dozens of things we could talk about. We could talk for days. We could do a part 1, part 2, part 3. But I really appreciate your doing this for people who don't have much, or people who are in transitions, or people who are just looking for a step up in life, because that's what it's really all about.
Awesome. I'm glad that you said that question, because I'm going to ask you that question next. So
Oh, okay. I must have been reading your mind.
for someone who's watching, who's like, okay, this is great. I understand, you didn't want to be poor, because no one wants to be poor. And some people may want to, fund their dreams. Some people may want to make sure their children are secured. Some people may want to travel around the world for whatever it is, what they want to use funds for. And they're wondering, well, I don't have much, and I feel a little. I'm going to stick to listening to this live, because I want to learn. I'm not going to run away from or exclude myself from the possibility of building a better financial future. But what would you say to someone like me who's starting out and saying, okay, fine, I want to do this. What would you say are first steps for someone who doesn't have much of a savings account?
First, it's a mindset change, right? Many people live paycheck to paycheck. First, you have to want to do this. There are many people who earn a paycheck and they spend a paycheck. You make $100, you spend $100. You make $1,000, you spend $1,000. And so there has to be some sort of reckoning. You first have to step back and tell yourself, well, I want something better for my life. And you have to have a reason to doing it. So give yourself a reason. Look at your children. Do you want something better for your children? Do you want them to have an education so they can become doctors or become lawyers or become nurses? Well, maybe you should start saving for an education. And if you're not saving anything now, well, maybe you should start. If you want to retire one day, you're getting older, you're in your 40s, you're in your 50s, you get into your 60s. Retirement will come one day, and you can't always rely on Social Security. So the first thing you want to do is you have to give yourself a reason, a purpose. You hear about this thing called the purpose. You always have to have a purpose, because things are going to get tough. You're going to overspend some months. Your income might drop. You might lose your job. But once you have a purpose and you have a goal, and I said that's really what I would describe as the second thing, having a goal in mind, right? So you change your mindset, focus, create a purpose, and then set a goal. What's your goal? What's important to you? Do you want to buy a new house? Do you want to buy a new car? Do you want to make more money? A lot more money. Do you want to save for retirement? Do you want to get your kids a better education? Do you want to get your kids generational wealth? What do you want? So you got to set a goal. So that's kind of the first thing that you really want to do. You have to figure out how important that goal is for you. And then you can go about building a plan to get there.
Mm-hmm. The mindset piece. That's big. So your why, because I would keep the vision in front of you. So when the times get tough, you can still remember that and keep pushing. Now I have a question. Someone's asking, it's like, okay, well, you said save and have mindset shift. I get it. Go, yes. She said, but how do you save if you're living paycheck to paycheck? That's the question.
The age-old question, right? And that's the majority of Americans. I read a statistic that said the average American is 2 to 3 months away from homelessness. I live downtown LA, and downtown LA is, we have 236,000 homeless people in America. We have half of them in California, and I bet we have about half of that in LA and in downtown LA. So I see poverty up front. And there are some basic things you can do, not necessarily to avoid poverty, but to make your financial life better. And I'm going to give you a list of those things now. And it's important, if you have a pen, write them down. But don't just listen to these things. I do a lot of talking to a lot of different people and a lot of different groups. And what I tell them is, if there's something you take from this, doesn't matter what it is, a topic, a mindset change, a technique, a website you can go to, take something from this and use it. So I'm going to give you a few things that you can do that if you practice any one of these things, better yet, two or more, better yet, all of them, what's your financial life change? The first thing is many people come into my office as a financial advisor and they want to invest or they want to, they want to make money, with what they have. And, they have 10,000, they have 100,000, they have a million, they have 10, well, how do I make 10% rate of return? How do I make 5% rate of return? How do I make 12% rate of return? And I ask them, what type of debt do you have? And very often, these same people clients who are trying to make 10% rate of return in the stock market have credit card debt that's 22%, 25%. Remember that interest rates have been going up over the past 10, 11 months. They've gone up 10 times. Everything is more expensive, including debt. The debt that you were borrowing for 5 or 6% is now 10 or 11%. So one of the easiest and best ways to earn the highest rate of returns and to help your financial life is to pay off bad debt. Now, what do we describe as bad debt? Well, first of all, let me talk about things that there's certain types of debt that you want to hold that are good. One of those is mortgage debt. Why is mortgage debt good debt? Well, because mortgage debt helps you not only buy a home and build generational wealth, a home that you may not be able to afford by yourself, but mortgage debt also helps give you a tax deduction. You get to deduct the interest rate. So if you're making money and you're borrowing at 6% or 6.5%, well, guess what? If your tax rate is 30%, you're only actually borrowing at 4% because you get a tax deduction. That's good debt. The same thing with a business loan. You run a business, you want to expand your business, you go out, you take a loan, and you're paying 6 or 7%. That 6 or 7% is tax deductible. But when you take that 6% and you invest it in your business and you make 20 or 30 or 40%, that's good debt. But the debt we're talking about is the debt that is not tax deductible. It's very, very, very high interest and that you shouldn't have. And that's things like credit card debt. You really want to try to stay away from those things. So if you have extra cash in the bank that you're thinking about investing with David, or you're thinking about putting in the stock market or hopefully not the crypto market, focus first on paying down your debt, because that way you get the better rate of return by avoiding the interest on 20 or 22 or 25% instead of paying 22% interest and then investing at 10%. You actually lose money that way. So the first way is to pay down debt. That's not all. Another way for you to actually help build better financial habits is your credit. You want to make sure your credit is the best you can get it. You can't believe how many people come into my office with bad credit. And look, in order for us to have a good standard of living in America, we have, some parts of the world, if you want to buy a car, you take a bag of cash, you go to the dealer and you pay for a car. Or you go buy a house, you take a bag of cash. We don't do that over here. We use credit. Credit helps you have a better quality of life. Credit helps you to be able to afford things that maybe you can't afford now, but they put you in a good home and a good car to get you to work, a good home to give your family and safety and security, and it allows you to buy those things. So it's very important for you to focus on protecting your credit. That means paying your debt on time. It means not maximizing your credit cards. It means making sure that you don't take on more than you can afford. And so building credit is a very, very, very important part of, Dr. Labit, I could keep talking about these things, things that people, so you just let me know when you want me to stop.
Oh, no, these are good. These are good. And sometimes people feel like, the credit card company only wants to collect the minimum amount, the minimum due. And so I'll keep saving my money or whatever is left over, and I'll just pay the minimum credit card debt, when actually that's destroying their credit, number one. Number two, they're actually paying more by not paying on time. And they don't tell you the math. The 22% is a lot. And the minimum payment you're paying is maybe just the interest. You're not even paying the actual money down. And by the time you know it, is extended and extended. Now, I also wanted to add for the person who's saying living paycheck to paycheck, um, let me ask you, what are your thoughts on a budget? Um, I, I,
Oh,
I wanted to advise the person who asked that question that maybe sit now and what would you say? Do you tend to recommend that, and what resistance do you get to that?
budgeting. Okay, so I categorize budgeting under saving more. People come into my office, right, and they will have goals, but they can't afford to finance their goals. They can't afford to save for retirement. They can't afford to save for their kids' education. They can't afford to have an emergency fund, which we're going to talk about here. But and they come in and we have a discussion. Well, you have two choices basically. If you can't afford to do the things you want, one of those choices is you can make more money. And we'll talk about that. There's ways to make more money. And the second way is for you to save more. How do you save more money? The only way you're able to save more money is if you know how much money you're making and how much money you're spending. So a
Mm,
budget is critical to your financial future. What's a budget? A budget is very straightforward. How much do you make per month? Write it down on a piece of paper. And how much do you spend? But don't forget one thing: taxes. The biggest part of what most people, I work with a lot of professional athletes, and eventually what happens often is they get a big contract. You make $10 million a year, right? And guess what happens? In their head is $10 million, so they go out and spend $10 million. But here's the problem:
mm,
first of all, taxes take out 50% of that, so now you only have $5 million, and then your agent takes out 15%. Your manager takes out 10%. And what you're left with is 3.5%. So if you're spending 10 million, you're really only making 3.5 billion. Many of them go into debt. So by the time they come to me, many of them are broke. The same thing, you don't have to be a professional athlete to have this problem. Many people do not budget, so they don't have a good handle on their finances. So what you want to do is look at how much you make, take out taxes, take out things like fixed cost, the things for your home,
mm.
things that, gas, things like food, and then you look at the leftover after your expenses, and that's what's left over. Now, very often, there's nothing left over. So here's what I usually ask people to do. You have two choices, right? The first choice is, well, before you start spending money, put some away for yourself. For example, you make $3,000 a year, and if you wait till the end of the month, you're going to spend all that 3,000. Take away $100 before you start spending. Once the money hits your paycheck, and put it in a separate account, and that account becomes your savings account. Let me guarantee you one thing: you might miss the $100 in the first month, and you might miss it in the second month. But after you start doing it over a period of time, you'll forget it's even there. And you'll wake up one day and you'll have a big pot of money. So budgeting is actually very, very, very important. But in line with budgeting is actually making more money. How do you make more money? Well, that's one of the things that I think I was lucky and I was blessed to understand in life very early. There's this thing called lifelong learning, which means not only are you great at your job now, but you're constantly learning to improve yourself. So, what is your career now? How much are you making? Are you not happy with how much you're making? What's the next step up? I see people working. I have contractors who work in my building. They work around in the area, and you see this man. They come in and they're construction workers, and I talk to them sometimes, and I say, look, you can go back and you could do a course, a short 3, 6, 9 month course, and you could become a contractor. And guess what? You could do the exact same thing you're doing now, but you could make 3 or 4 times more. I was talking to a security guard, across the street the other day, and the guy was, he was standing there. He's very hardworking. He's always there on time. He's very, rains, sun. He's always. And I asked him. I said, "Why don't you go take a course and become an owner of a security company, right? And all you do is you own the security. You take a course to be a securities contractor, And then once you do that, you go get the jobs. There's many, many jobs out there. And then you hire the security guards to work for you. And so constant learning and upgrading your skills as well as budgeting is probably the easiest way to reduce your expenses, save more, and increase your compensation, your pay.
Awesome. You've given out a lot of tips. I love the constant learning piece and how you can just upgrade yourself with minimal stretching, and increase your earning potential. And I wanted to say this real quick because I'm guessing someone's watching this and saying, "Well, I don't know about budgeting. I hate math. I don't like doing it. Numbers give me the heebie-jeebies." What would you say to that, Doc? I said, Doc. Sure. What would you say to that? Because it's I've had people tell me this. I hate the numbers. Just so is there a quick fix to that? Sir, help.
Yes. I see that a lot. Most people don't like math, and most people don't like looking at the expenses because it's uncomfortable. You're spending all that money on coffee every day. $6, frappuccino, lappuccino, cappuccino. I don't even know all those names they call themselves, and that $6 or $7 over a year. If you just bought a coffee pot and made your own coffee, could
Mm,
save you hundreds of dollars a year. You invest that money in the stock market making 7%, or even a CD making 4%. Guess what? After a while, you have thousands of dollars. So, in terms of building, I understand the aversion to math. There are some websites that you can go to that I actually personally like, and that as a financial advisor, I don't really recommend things. I can tell you about some of them, but we have to be very careful how we recommend,
right,
outside
right.
services. But there are two good services, and you can do it any number of ways. You can download your credit card statement. Most people put their expenses on a credit card. You can actually download your credit card statement, and it'll help you categorize it. Some credit card statements actually help you do that. Here's how much came in. Here's how much went. So you don't have to open up an Excel spreadsheet and do any math. The two websites or the two apps that I like, they're online. You can either go to your desktop or you can go to your phone. One is called Mint, MINT. If you Google it, go to mint.com. It's a pretty good place for you to, just sort of put in your expenses, budget, and it'll do all the math for you. You don't have to be a computer genius or math genius. The second is called Nerd Wallet. And that helps you. They all have other services. They market credit cards to you. They want you to open up a savings account or a checking account. And you can do that if you want. But the primary purpose of what you're doing these for is you want to use those free tools, and those tools will help you budget. Here's your income, here's your expenses, so you don't have to do the math yourself.
Awesome. I love it. Remember, these are suggestions. Make sure you do your research before you do these, but these are good ones. I like Mint actually. And Mr. David, you said something. You talked about buying your own coffee. I want to throw out a few more tips, like buying fruits that are on sale, foods that are on sale. And there's a favorite grocery store here, like called Town Talk Foods, where they sell wholesale fruits and then foods that are maybe set to expire in like 2 weeks. And I used to go grocery shopping there, because when you budget, you know how much you have to stretch. And so you're more conscious, you're more aware of where your money is being poured out. You'd be surprised how many people are not aware of how much they're spending on certain things. But when you sit down and actually put the numbers, you see the places where you have some wiggle room, to save money and fund your future dreams and goals. Thank you so much, Mr. David. Next question for you. For someone who's watching, who's like, well, I have a job, and they offer certain things at the job. And I want to ask this question because sometimes in conversations with people about 401ks, they're like, yeah, what's that? And I'll be honest with you, when I was younger, I did not like 401k because I'm like, I'm not putting my money anyway. I want to keep everything, and yeah, um, I can't go back in time. But what are your tips, or what would you say someone who's working maybe for a larger corporation or something that offer those, like what are tips to start to build wealth even from where you are working for somebody else that offers maybe those benefits?
If I was to give an offer to everyone watching this broadcast. And here's the offer. I'm going to give everyone who has a job a 3% raise now. Everyone who has a job. All you have to do is you put away 3% of your money in a bucket, and I'll give you 3% free, a raise. What would most people say?
Yeah. Thank you.
Take it. It's free money. You're welcome. Well, that's what your 401k is. In 1973, the federal government act of Congress was passed because Americans are very bad savers. We don't like to save. We like to spend money. We like Gucci. We like nice shoes. We like big houses. We like nice cars. And because of that, the federal government doesn't want us to become wards of the state. So whenever you retire, if you don't have any money, the government has to take care of you. They'll give you food stamps, they'll give you EBT, they'll give you Medicare, and Social Security. So the government said, look, we're going to allow you to save, and we're going to allow your employer to save for you in a bucket of money, and we'll give you both tax incentives. A 401k is one of the best investments you could ever do. Now, let me explain why. It has some enormous advantages. The first advantage I just said is you get free money. 72%, if I remember those numbers correct, of employers match a 401k. All you have to do, if you qualify for it, you've been there for a while, sometimes they require you to stay for a while, they give you a match of 3%, sometimes more. Take the money, put in at least 3%. That money is going to help you because it's growing. That's the first benefit, but that's not the only benefit. It's tax deferred. So if you make $3,000 a month and you put in, and your tax rate is, let's just say 20%, you're paying $600 in taxes. But if you put away, I'm just going to throw out a big number, $1,000 into your 401k per month, then your taxes drop from $600 to $400. Why? Because the $1,000 you put into that fund is tax deductible. You don't pay any taxes on it. So the only thing you're taxed on is not $3,000, is the difference between the $3,000 and the $1,000 401k investment you made. That $2,000. And if your tax rate is 20% on the $2,000, that's $400. So by putting money away for yourself, the government just gave you a tax break and you reduce your taxes by $200. Now, keep in mind, you're going to have to pay the taxes when you take it out, but it's tax deferred. What that means is that $1,000 you put in and the $200, the $10 growth or the $100 growth or the $200 growth is going to be growing for you. So you're going to have a bigger pot of money. So even when you pay taxes, when you take it out, hopefully you've retired by then, your income has dropped. So your tax rate now might be 20 or 25 or 30%. Then it's going to be 10 or 15%. But that's not the only benefit. It's tax deferred. What that means is that if you put $1,000 into your 401k, well, let me rephrase. If you take $1,000 and you invest it in a CD and you make 4%, well, you just made what, $40? You're going to pay taxes on that $40. But if that $1,000 was inside of your 401k, that $40 is tax deferred. So not only do you have that $1,000 investment working for you, you also have the $40 investment gain working for you. So you build up a bigger pot. But that's not all. It's protected from creditors. So if you have $1,000 in a CD or a bank account or a checking account and you get sued, God forbid something happens and you get sued, they can come after your bank and you have a judgment against you. They can come after that $1,000 in your bank account, but they can't because your 401k is by statute, by act of Congress, protected from creditors. And so 401k is one of the most powerful investments that you want to do. I encourage everyone as much as possible to maximize their 401ks. Now, what if you don't have a 401k at work? Well, you have an IRA. As long as you make money, you can put up to 100% of what you make, minus self-employment taxes, but those are relatively small. You can make up to 100% of what you make into a 401k, into an IRA. And don't forget this thing called the Roth, because if you're younger and you have a lot more time to invest, and your tax rate is a little bit less now than you think it's going to be in the future because you expect to make more money, you want to consider doing a Roth 401k instead of a 401k, or a Roth IRA instead of an IRA. What's the difference between an IRA and a 401k, or a Roth IRA and a Roth 401k? One simple difference. With an IRA and a 401k, you get a tax deduction now, but you have to pay the taxes later. With a Roth 401k, Roth IRA, you don't get a tax deduction now, but you never have to pay taxes later. And I'll give you a quick example. You put $1,000 into a 401k, you get a tax deduction of, let's just say, $200. And that money grows, and now it's $5,000. Let's just say the tax rate is the same. You pay taxes at, $5,000. You pay, $1,000 in taxes. You saved $400 now, you're paying $1,000 later. But it's okay because now you have $5,000, not $1,000. So it's okay to pay more taxes. I can't believe I said that, but it's okay to do it. On the other hand, with a Roth IRA, you get that $1,000 investment. You don't save $400 because it's not tax deductible. So you have to go find $400 in there somewhere else, add it to this pot because you have to pay that $400 in taxes now. But that $1,000, let's just say it grows to the same thing, $5,000. When you take that money out, unlike the 401k, you pay zero taxes. So all of that $5,000 is your money. But the only time you want to do that is if you have a long period of time to recoup the tax deduction you would otherwise have achieved. So to answer your question, a 401k is probably one of the best things you can do for your financial life.
Okay. I'm going to ask this question, for someone who's watching who's like, man, you keep throwing numbers like 1,000 and 500 and 100,000 and it's good. But what if all I have is a couple tens, couple hundreds? Is there hope for me as far as building wealth? That's a
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's really when you start. I always tell people it's not how much you start with, it's the habit you build that matters. So if you have, and I always tell people something, it's not how much you make that matters, it's how much of that you keep. So for somebody who's making $100,000 a year, who's saving nothing, and you're making $35,000 a year, and you're saving $1,000 a year, $100 a month, you're better off at $30,000 saving $100 than the person who's making $100,000 who's saving nothing. So what I will encourage you to do is, it doesn't matter how much you save. Start with $10, but make it consistent. Now, where do you invest the money? Well, that depends. It depends on what you need the money for. Remember back to the first reason, the purpose? You don't just put money away. You have to have a purpose. And if you don't have a lot of money, the first purpose you want to save for is what we call an emergency fund. Remember what we first said about how many Americans are 2 months to 3 months away from, being on the street if they lose their paycheck? Well, the one thing that can protect you from poverty is an emergency fund. Things happen all the time. Your car breaks down. You need to change the roof, your carpet, hospital bills, unforeseen expenses. You got to travel somewhere because somebody passed away. How are you going to afford that? The average American doesn't have $400 in their bank account that they can spare. And so being able to take that $50 or $100 and put it into an emergency fund in a very, very safe savings account, maybe a CD maybe not a CD because you might need the money market account making 3, 4, 5%. And that emergency fund should be about anywhere between, in terms of how much it should be, it's somewhere around a percentage of your expenses. Some people use 6 months of expenses. So if you're spending $1,000 a month, you want to save at least $6,000. That's a comfortable number, but you're not going to get to 6 months right away. So why don't you start with saving $50 and $100 every month, and eventually you'll get there. And of course, that's really the first place. There's many more places you can save, but that's really the first thing you want to do when you're saving money. Build up an emergency fund.
Awesome. And I have someone who's watching who's like, man, it's nice that you're having this conversation with us. No one has talked to me about these kind of things. So they're like, well, where do I go to meet with someone? Who do I what am I looking for? Who am I looking for to help me with these type of topics or decisions?
Well, it's important, first of all, for you. There's two things. First of all, it's important to have a financial advisor. But even when you have a financial advisor, you still have responsibilities to yourself to actually study and do the research. It's not the financial advisor, it's the financial advisor's job to help you, but it's your job actually to take care of yourself, right? And he just assists you in taking care of yourself. So it's really, really to get a financial advisor. It's pretty straightforward. You can go to, there's many the SEC, FINRA. You can reach out to me. My first name David Adefeso at Sootchy.com. It's my first name David Adefeso at Sootchy.com. But even if you became a client of ours. Even if you called me and if you email me, we will work with you, try to help you. I mean, if you're, part of this broadcast, then you're somebody we want to work with. However, that doesn't absolve you of the responsibility of actually reading, of actually doing the research, of actually starting the process yourself. So I would strongly encourage you, even before you get a financial advisor, go to mint.com, go to NerdWallet, start the process of saving. Another thing I'll ask you to do is, many people, have bank accounts. You talk about banks. Many people have this bank account with all these big banks, and they're making 0.01% interest, and they just leave the money there. Go to an online bank. Go to this thing called bankrate.com. Again, we don't endorse anyone, but it's a very good resource. Bankrate.com. So after you've saved in your emergency fund and you're ready to do a little bit more, longer term investing, but not too long, open up a CD. You can get 4.5%. You get sometimes up to 5%. Don't feel stuck in one of these large money center banks. And so do your research. It's important for you to educate yourself. In addition to getting a financial advisor, a financial advisor just helps you with the things that you don't know. So by the time you go to a financial advisor, I mean, Dr. Labinta, you're a client of ours. And when you came to us, you knew so much about finance that it was easy to work with you, right? It was fun and it was easy. Many people don't do the research, and that's why some people get in trouble. You pick a financial advisor who may not be as scrupulous as he should be, or who may be looking for commissions or to make money at your expense. You get in trouble. Do your research first, and before you go to an advisor. But if you want to call me or email me, I'm available. I'm always happy to help.
All right, so I have questions, and and I'm glad we're having this discussion because I'm a few decades older than I was when I made some decisions that are not so good, and I don't want people to make the same decision, and so I'm glad we're having this discussion. So, but I have a question here. He says, "What's this CD?"
A CD is called a certificate of deposit, and it is one of those accounts that helps you make a little bit more money, but you have to give something up. And that thing you give up is time. So you have CDs that go from 6 months. You have to put it in there for 6 months. You have to put it in there for a year. Sometimes you have to put it in there for 18 months. You have to lock it up. And because of the fact that you're giving the bank your money for that long, they will pay you a much higher interest rate than you often earn in just a regular savings account, which will pay you, 0.01%. So you put in $100, you're making 1 cent. You could make 5 cents. I'm sorry, you can make $5, by investing in it's called a certificate of deposit. But it's not the only thing you can do. It's just the one that gives you a little bit higher interest rate. Now, just so you know, by the way, up to $250,000. We've heard about all these banks failing and Silicon Valley Bank and all these bank credits going under. Well, if you put money into a certificate of deposit, up to $250,000, just like your bank, it's protected from creditors. And so keep that in mind. Your money is safe in the bank. But that CD is not the only thing you can do to earn a higher interest rate. There's things called money market accounts, right? You give that money to a bank or financial institution, and they give you a higher interest rate, and that's a little bit more liquid than CDs. With a CD, you may not be able to pull it out for 6 months or a year. And if you pull it out early, they'll penalize you. They'll take away some of that 4.5% interest, your money. But the money market account, it's a little bit different. They still pay you a higher interest rate, maybe not as high as a CD, but the money is more liquid. It's really all about what you want. Can you afford to keep your money in there for 6 months or a year, or do you prefer to have it more liquid?
Okay, awesome. And then someone asked also, what's the name of an online bank? that an example. Of course, we're suggesting, not advocating or advertising any bank, but what's the name of an online bank that you would suggest?
Well, again, we don't, because this is what we do for a living. We don't. I will give you a name, but I'll preface it with, we don't give any recommendations because I can't. You put money in the bank and there's an issue. There's a tendency to look at us and say, well, you recommended the bank because that's what we do. I'm licensed to recommend investments. But if you go to bankrate.com and you scroll down, keep one thing in mind. It doesn't matter what the name of the bank is, as long as you make sure the bank has FDIC insurance guarantee and is participating in FDIC insurance. If the bank fails, the federal government agency called the Federal Deposit Insurance will give you your money back. But the last time I was in bankrate.com, which was, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, I did see one bank called Marcus. It's owned by a company called Goldman Sachs. It's a bank. And Marcus was offering over 4.5%. And I was impressed. So I'm not recommending you invest there. Please do your research and go to bankrate.com and look at all the other options. I believe now there's some banks who are giving you over 5%. And if the Federal Reserve keeps raising interest rates, who knows, 5.5%, 6.5%.
Awesome. And I have another question. These are good questions. Keep them coming. Do
question.
all banks have the CD and money market accounts?
For the most part, yes. Banks have a certain function. The function of a bank is to take in your deposits and give out loans. Those loans come in the form of mortgages, credit card, lines of credit, business loans, SBA loans. The deposits, the inflow, come in multiple forms. Some is, non-time deposit, credit card, checking accounts, savings account. And then you have others with times, with like CDs, money market accounts. So it's part of the standard function of a bank to offer these products. So yes, I never use the word all or guarantee in our business, but the overwhelming majority of banks will offer. So if you have a bank now that you bank with, walk into your bank and first of all, go to bankrate.com, scroll through all the banks. You can do it right now as we speak. Scroll through, go to the CD part, scroll through the CDs. You see 4.5%, you see 5%, you see 4.7%. Now go to your bank, call your bank and ask them, what are you offering me? And if it doesn't match what they're offering over there, it costs you nothing. Online, you have online banking. Go to online banking, open up Marcus or whatever account you want to open, and just transfer your money in there. As long as it's under $250,000, who cares about the bank? What you care about is your money is safe. You're going to get your money back in 6 months because the government guarantees it.
Awesome. All right. This has been a very rich live. We've gone way past time. It's supposed to be 30 minutes. But this has been very, very useful. Thank you so much for coming, Mr. David. And for those who are wondering, like, where can we connect with you? I know you mentioned it earlier, but where can people connect with you, sir?
Well, I'll give you two things. I'll give you my number, my word number. You can call me, and I'll give you my email address. Right, my number is 310-807-0140. I'm going to repeat, 310-807-0140. You have a team of very smart people who are waiting to connect, and figure out what your need is, and if there's, before I get on the phone and talk you through some of the things that you need. But you can also email me, and my email is David. It's my first name, David, dot my last name, ADE, F as in Frank, ESO. And I'm actually going to give you the Pacific Group because that's the one that Sootchy is the technology company, and so I use both. But the Pacific Group is the the wealth management firms. David.Adefeso at thepacificgroup.com. Please feel free, David.Adefeso at the Group. So drop me a note. Let me know what's on your mind. I'll be very happy to respond.
Awesome. And what I'm also doing is putting all of this information there. You're also on the social media pages, your Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. We're not going to talk about your YouTube channel.
Well, I do have a YouTube channel, but it's what is it, a remission? I started the YouTube channel, as and it's just a standard. That's what we do in the wealth management. Fortunately or unfortunately, we work with. I've had the Pacific Group for 20 years, and we do work with some very, very wealthy people. Athletes, entertainers, millionaires, very, very wealthy. Unsuccessful people. But I realized that not everyone, many years ago, that not everyone can afford a financial advisor. And people still need financial advice, which is why I give you so much credit for what you're doing today. You're providing very valuable, basic advice that is so important that most people didn't learn in school. So I realized there was this need out there, and I decided I was going to try to disseminate as much information as I could. So about a year and a half ago, I started a YouTube channel. Go into YouTube and put in my name, David Adefeso. It's called Wealth Demystified. And it was for people who didn't know a lot about finances and talked about very basic things that are very, very important, but basic may be the wrong word. Very important things, but simple things to execute. The power of credit, assets and liabilities, how to, pick a better bank, things that help, how to, make more money, how to improve your skills, how to save money, how the best places to invest, the best places, investments not to invest. Hello, crypto.
Yes,
Places not, not to invest. And so that YouTube channel is called Wealth Demystified. And if you have a chance, I haven't done it in a while. I started it and we grew to 5,000 within like 2 months. It was very popular, and then I got busy. And I promised myself I will go back to it sometime this year. I will go back to it. You can just Google, David Adefeso, put in Wealth Demystified in YouTube, and it'll come out.
Awesome, awesome. This has been very, very good. And I've put the comments YouTube channel for those who are watching YouTube, watching Facebook. I'll also have it posted also for those who are watching through Instagram, not Instagram, LinkedIn. It's not, this feature doesn't let me do that all at the same time, but I'll make sure that information gets to you. So thank you for watching. I do see the comments here. You should read the comments. A lot of good feedback. This was very, very good, sir. Thank you.
It's such a pleasure, Dr. Labiton. I have to thank you because this is just amazing. I mean, this is not your job, but you've made it your job because you love people and you love Christ. And it's just an amazing thing for you to want to help people in any way you can. So I enjoyed this and I look forward to part 2.
Thank you. We'll do this 6 months. All right. Thank you all for watching. Shout out to those who watch live, replay. Please forward this to as many people as could use this. Send it to your friends, send it to their kids. Let's have people doing things to help secure a better financial future for their now and their tomorrow. And on that note, if you or anyone you know is looking for an awesome, a thorough, and a passionate family physician in the Mansfield, Texas area, I am she. Thank you all for watching and have a good one. Thank you, sir. Nice one.
Thank you. All right.
Bye.